Safia Qureshi, thank you so much for being with us today. What is Cup Club?
Cup Club. So Cup Club is essentially a returnable packaging service for drinks. We've developed up a way that consumers can take away their favorite drinks, hot and cold, from their cafes, canteens, restaurants, in a packaging product that we supply to the retailer, and then return it when it's finished. So it's a zero waste alternative to single-use plastics or single-use packaging.
And how did it start? What's the story behind what now describes it?
Well, it's a long way to come to this part. So we have been developing up the system for about 3 years. Cup Club started off actually in my agency. I'm an architect by background, very heavily interested in design thinking. And design thinking where we can figure out a way for products to be in constant use as opposed to this sort of linear waste stream. So we, in 2015, actually started looking at EMF's work, and we actually also looked at IDEO's methodology to understand how do we make this something more human-centered, and how do we figure out a new packaging system which isn't as wasteful, which can be fun and dynamic, and kind of go back to the practices that we've seen previously 30 years or 40 years ago being implemented with a digital native audience. So it started off as a side project in the agency, and I pulled it out and then set it up as an independent company and startup. And we've started operating and trading since April this year.
And so it's a reusable cup ecosystem is how you described it. I guess returnable schemes of other kinds of products, or reusable mugs and water bottles and things like that. They're kind of, there's some knowledge around what those types of products are.
Yes.
What makes Cup Club distinct?
So our initial idea was to focus on a product which was easy to carry, lightweight, that people didn't have to personally own, that they could return to a network of drop points. We wanted these products to be individually tagged and given an ID. So our belief is that every product that's manufactured, specifically if it's plastics, should be tracked, i.e. it should have an identifier on each product. We use a technology called RFID, which is embedded into every product that we manufacture. I guess the uniqueness is the fact that we've focused very much on not just the packaging, but also the entire return system and the infrastructure that supports it. So we're not just looking at the product alone, we're looking at the entire chain, which is really critical. We have our own carriers, which are our cases that carry the product from us to our locations where we service. So retailers, these could be large headquarter offices or airports or shopping malls or universities. And we carry that product in those cases, and the product comes back to us in those cases. So we're looking at the entire model. We're not just siloing and looking at one or the other. We think that it's actually a system that needs to be approached. So the fact that we combine technology, product thinking, as well as the infrastructure, the design elements, is probably what makes us unique.
Just talk a little bit more about that whole system, because obviously making a better coffee cup is probably a challenge, but one part of the challenge that maybe other people have, it's quite a understandable challenge. Actually trying to get those things back through the system and so you can use them again is a really big challenge. What kinds of solutions you've got the technology side, I guess, is the one key bit to unlocking that. If someone was using Cup Club in the future, is it, where are they returning the cups to?
Yep. So in closed campuses, what we've focused is closed campuses and closed environments. So you've got high density. We know that 25% of coffee, for example, which is one product, which is one drinks category that would apply to us, is consumed in closed systems or closed environments. So your workplace or education space or somewhere where you might be in transit. So our focus is actually looking at those particular kind of case study locations. So we know, for example, if you're in a high dense office environment, there's high consumption of drinks within that environment. We put our cases at very obvious locations around service points, but then also on different floor levels, around exit points for buildings where people will naturally want to drop a product in the same way that they might naturally want to drop a product into a bin. They will want to return our product to a case. So it is about network thinking. It's really critical that you think about the convenience on the customer at the end of the day before you think about anything else. How can you make it as frictionless as possible? So our entire effort has been on behavior change, but incremental behavior change. So people don't feel like this is so new, I don't know how this might work, but actually keeping our product and service in functionality as similar as possible to what they currently do with single use, but adding very small incremental differences. The return part for us, we communicate to people it's a drink and drop situation. So that enables them to not carry the product for the full day. So we have about 70-30 split. 70% of people will drink and drop immediately. 30% might hold on to it, keep it for a while, or return it at the end of the day. So the data, which is what the RFID technology allows us to track how much product has been returned. And we've noticed a loss rate of about 2.6% in our closed environments, which is considerably low. And from a commercial perspective, we've baked that into the cost of the service fee. So we kind of work with each customer to ensure that that return rate is as low as we can possibly get it. And we build that through communications piece as well.
It's definitely the power of these technologies, isn't it? That you're going to be able to improve the design of your product and service constantly because you're getting all this information back from
operationally, yes. So knowledge of the RFID system allows us visibility of where the product is. Is it in we have a certain model for our operations. We manufacture to a certain multiplier, so we need to know where is our stock, and this is what enables us to create better operational systems. Is it in the washing phase? Is it at the retail point? Is it with a customer? Or is it actually in a vehicle on the road? This is the visibility that we can get.
And the other thing I was thinking about as you were talking about the enclosed spaces like university campuses, it feels like that's also a strong business case when you've got that amount of users, convenience for them, but also for you. That's the clear first business opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. I mean, considering the data that we can look at for coffee consumption is 25% is in your closed campuses, 10% is in retail, and the remaining is actually at home. We know that all of the disposable single-use manufactured goods is going to be within your closed campuses and in retail. People don't use disposable packaging at home. So that's your majority of your market. So out of that, the major part or chunk of it naturally is where people spend most of their time, which is in closed systems.
And I mean, maybe just one thing that's interesting just to talk about briefly is how this all fits into the circular economy. I mean, viewers who are aware of the concept will obviously see the reuse. Where does that sort of get integrated in the philosophy behind the business?
So in terms of the business structure, it's very simple. We design a product for a minimum usage over 6 months. That product has then a very clear sort of benchmark in terms of, right, if we've got 6 months, we've got on average 132 uses, we know we can track the number of times that product has been used and optimize it for that. That means from a business angle, we are able to structure our pricing to be almost at par, if not equal to single-use packaging. Because we've developed a product which can pay for itself over time. And that's really where the CE comes in, is understanding not just the viability from an environmental angle, but also the commercial viability behind products that we make. If we make products that are high quality and can last longer, we can generate more revenue and value out of them over a period of time, as opposed to just sort of taking them out and leaving them for someone else to manage. So what happens is, in a business model like ours, we sort of centralize a lot of the value within our own system. Whereas in a single-use market, you will have a manufacturer of a single-use product, you will have a distributor, you will then have the actual retailer, you will have a customer, and then you will have the recycling company who's involved. And each of them will have a separate sort of value within that chain. Whereas if you have a returnable packaging system, you're essentially building the products and you're directly working with a retailer, and you're only looking at a recycling company at the end of the life of that product, after 6 months minimum. And so you're kind of, I would say, disrupting the model from many angles, because you're cutting out how this distribution of this linear chain works and actually consolidating it and simplifying it. So the commercials work out if you develop up better products, is what I'm trying to say.
And obviously that relevance to the circular economy was recognised at our Oceans in 2017, when Cup Club was one of the winners of the New Plastic Economy Innovation Prize. What's happened since winning that prize fund?
So that was the first cash injection into the company in 2017, October. Up till that point, we had done a lot of prototyping and testing. We had done a pilot as well. And what we were looking to do is basically start our first injection molded product so that we could integrate our own technology, RFID, into it and produce small volumes that we could then test in the market. So between 2017 and April, we were able to set up a team. We then got to the developing stage. Then in April, we launched officially this year as a company with our first innovation partners, went to market with our product, manufactured our first batch, and have now been rolling into the development phase. So now we're at the growth period. So I would say that within a year, we managed to take the business from very sort of early stage pilot through to growth stage startup. And we're now a team of 6. We've raised quite a bit of funding, and now we're raising some further to look at a further expansion plan. So looking at a city scale model and understanding how we can then deploy that. So very critical funding. It was our first seed or pre-seed funding that really enabled us to grow.
And where is Cup Club right now? Are you working on campuses? Have you got partnerships, or are you still one step away from delivering the product?
So we've actually been live in operations. Trading started in April. We've deployed across HQ offices in London. Our focus is very much London right now. We've announced our first UK retailer, which is Waitrose and John Lewis in partnership.
And what does that, just to clarify, what does that mean when you partner with Waitrose or John Lewis? Is that you in their stores? What does that look like?
Yeah. So what we are doing immediately is we're basically setting up across their EMEA, which is their HQ offices in Victoria. So we're launching across, servicing that entire those headquarters first as phase 1, and then we're developing up a phase development with them. The most important thing is to see the alignment coming from industry. So we know that Waitrose has a very strong targets, but also their entire roadmap around reduction in single-use plastics, which they've been fantastic with in terms of actually implementing. So they're on the same philosophy as us. So we're both very well aligned, and it's now trying to work out beyond that initial phase launch early next year is how does that then grow into their stores? How does that grow into other types of product categories? So Cup Club is, of course, for cups, but the club model is our infrastructure that we've got a global patent on, and we can add other product categories to that. So what would that be for a UK retailer? So that's all in the pipeline. That's all being discussed and discovered as we go along. But the immediate rollout will be initially within closed campuses. So hence HQ offices, and then you'll hear further down the line how we're going to be expanding that for more sort of customer facing. And how we integrate technology with each of these partners is going to become something that we'll talk about more next year.
It's funny that this topic of single-use plastics is such a huge one, and it's nice to be able to have a conversation where you're one of the solution providers for organisations that are becoming conscious of that issue.
Yeah.
You've spoken a bit about some of the things that are coming up next, but what is the next big phase of Cup Club? Looking ahead to 2019 and beyond. Is it the partnerships?
It is the partnerships, and we haven't gone live with them, so I can't make announcements yet. But they include fantastic, well-aligned businesses that are operating globally. So that's drinks brands that are operating globally, as well as other types of closed campuses, such as airports. I think the biggest excitement for 2019 is we're going to be proving it as a city-scale solution in London. Then we're going to be looking to launch globally. So a lot of the work that I've been doing this year is to basically understand where the next global city will be and how we'll position that. That will become a really exciting venture, because for us, then we'll be able to not just prove that we can do one city, but we can scale this. So 2019 is going to be discovering what that network looks like, what the data will unlock for these types of businesses that we're working with, very closely sort of co-creating a lot of these products with. It is a new market, like you're saying. The whole plastic space has become very relevant. It's in the social conscience. And we're, I guess, sort of leading in that respect in terms of putting that product out in front of customers who've never used this before. So it's very exciting, but it's also a journey, which is why all of these developments or phasing is always in stages. So 2019, we're looking for high growth. We'll be pretty much doubling our team and launching a pilot trial in a new territory.
And of course, it resonates very strongly with me that once you've secured a partnership with a business, or some offices, or some university campuses, you mentioned airports. Once you have a collection of those different partners in one location, then of course the city side of things becomes really interesting.
It's really interesting, and we can follow people move from city to city. Also, the global 55% of the global population lives in cities. So we know that the highest consumption is in global cities.
Well, Safia, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. Cup Club, definitely a name to look out for both now and in 2019.
Perfect. Thank you so much.